how cold you have to be for Hall of Fame tight end to be your second most impressive accomplishment? Well, the first black GM in NFL history, Ozzie Newsome, sure does. Imagine your adult football life, starting with playing for Bear Bryant at Alabama and ending with drafting Lamar freaking Jackson. I know that makes Mr. Newsome sound like he's 1,000, but I promise the math and the timeline adds up. Just rock with me, and let me tell you the story of the man who should be the first person inducted in the Hall of Fame twice. Once as a player, and again as a contributor. Hey, subscribe to the channel, hit the little bell so you don't miss a video. Don't make me come back here and tell you again.
Newsome would surpass even Rutigliano's expectations by becoming one of the greatest pass-catching tight ends the NFL had ever seen.
The pride of Muscle Shoals, Alabama, the perfect name for the hometown of a Hall of Fame tight end, by the way. Ozzie Newsome Jr. was a phenom from the start. As part of one of the first classes of students to integrate all-white Colbert County High School, Newsome was a three-sport superstar. State champion in basketball, batted .350 in baseball, and of course, losing a total of 4 games in 3 years on the football field. Starting at both wide receiver and defensive end, he earned All-State and All-American honors. So naturally, when you're putting your foot on the necks of high schoolers statewide, you start to draw the attention of colleges nationwide. And a certain Hall of Fame coach took some notice at our guy Ozzie and was not going to let him out the state. Enter a Mr. Paul Bear Bryant. At this time, when the fedora walked in the room, the player was leaving with him. That's just kind of how it went. Especially after USC showed him that black people were actually pretty decent at this football thing. And Ozzie was no different. His impact was felt immediately, leading the eventual SEC champion Tide in catches and receiving yards as a freshman, straight out the womb. And always the model of consistency, the Wizard did the same thing his next 3 years too, just for good measure, picking up an All-American nod as a senior on the way. So to recap, at the tender young age of 22, Newsome already had multiple championships and multiple records in multiple sports on both the college and high school level, and making a few Hall of Fames along the way, but do not worry, we will get there. And we all know where this goes next, right? Not sure if you noticed the trend here, but Ozzie doesn't really do the whole failure thing. That didn't change when he entered the league in 1978. The first round draft pick was named the Browns Offensive Player of the Year. I don't think you heard me. Not Rookie of the Year, Player of the Year, as an All-53, and kept the dominance going for the rest of his playing career, never missing a single game in his whole career, carrying a streak of 150 games with a catch by a tight end, a record that wasn't broken until Tony Gonzalez did it 20 years after Newsome retired. Since we're talking about records and whatnot, the Wizard retired as the tight end all-time leader in, hold on y'all, check the laptop over here for the research department. Everything, all of it, all of the things, catches, touchdowns, yards, you name it, he led it. He was top 5 among all wide receivers period in receiving yards too. Played in 3 separate decades, made the all-decade team in the 80s. Y'all get the point. Ozzie was the man. He retired as the greatest tight end ever. Dominated on every single level he's ever played in every sport he's ever tried. Now me personally, if I accomplished all that, I would be on a beach somewhere with my toes in the sand with a woman the same color as Godiva. But again, that's just me. Oh, but that was not the Wizard. Not Big Oz for Muscle Shoals. And now I want y'all to keep in mind all those accomplishments I just listed, especially as we go into the next segment of this video. Because when I say that being an all-time great on the field was his second best accomplishment, I'm not kidding. I'm sure he'll probably say his kids, his wife, or whatever, but that's for him to say. For our purposes, the number one thing is going to be what he did in the front office. And now for the purpose of the actual video, bring in the TV and typing.
Ozzie Newsome has put together quite a track record during his time running the personnel department here in Baltimore.
After hanging up the cleats in 1990, the new coach of the Cleveland Browns, this William guy, I don't know, apparently he's pretty successful, tried his best to talk Ozzie into one last ride on the field, but to no avail. So Coach Williams settled for the next best thing, getting him in the front office. First as an assignment scout, but it didn't take him very long to become the director of pro personnel. But right as Newsome and William and co were starting to turn the Browns around, team owner Art Modell had other plans.
The Browns are indeed coming to Baltimore.
Downside, Cleveland lost their football team literally in the middle of the night. Upside, Ozzie got promoted to vice president of player personnel. Translation, GM, and everything but title. That's later in the story. Don't get ahead of me. By now, everyone in the league already knew that Ozzie had an eye for talent that others could only dream of. But nobody truly knew how special that eye was. Armed with the 4th and 26th overall pick in the first draft in the history of the Baltimore Ravens, ownership wanted to sell tickets, naturally, so they were focused on a flashy, splashy draft pick, something to get the people going. Specifically, superstar Nebraska running back Lawrence Phillips, who has since passed, and out of respect for his loved ones, I won't dive into why Ozzie was so skeptical of him as a player. Instead, let's talk about the player the Ravens actually drafted. UCLA left tackle and one of my personal heroes, Jonathan Ogden. 6'9", 345, an absolute unit of a human being, and should be in the dictionary next to the word offensive tackle, who went on to play 12 seasons for the Ravens, 11 of them as a Pro Bowler, 4 as an All-Pro, which is absolutely criminal, and joining Ozzie in football heaven, also known as the NFL Hall of Fame. So the Ravens go 1 for 1. A Hall of Famer in their first pick ever. Surely their next pick can't be any better than.
I didn't choose football. Football chose me.
Oh, okay. I guess it can be. For all 2 of you who don't know who that maniac is, and I say that lovingly, that is Ray Anthony Lewis, the greatest linebacker to ever look at a football. 17 seasons as a Raven, 12-time Pro Bowler, 7-time All-Pro, 2-time Defensive Player of the Year, the literal face of the franchise even now, and he hasn't played it down in over a decade. In Ozzie's first draft at GM, he put that wizard nickname to good use. And for my next trick, I'll draft the Hall of Fame left tackle, and then the greatest player in the history of the franchise. But we're just getting started. The man oversaw every Ravens draft from 1996 to 2018. Don't worry, we won't be going year by year. I'll just be doing the highlights. In those 23 drafts, the 24 total first round picks made 68 Pro Bowls. The Ravens drafted 29 Pro Bowlers in total. Currently, Ozzie shares a bus room in Canton with 3 of his draft picks, Ray Lewis, Jonathan Ogden, and Ed Reed, with 2 more just now becoming eligible, Marshall Yanda and Terrell Suggs. And now if I had to project with current players, I can argue 3 more are going to be joining him in Joe Flacco, Lamar Jackson. Before you type your comment, every single player who has won 2 MVPs is in the Hall of Fame, playoff success be damned, and Justin Tucker. I know he's in a lot of bit of legal trouble right now, but if that's a disqualifier for the Hall of Fame, then we got to start removing some busts as soon as possible. But what are all these draft picks worth if the team can't convert them into wins? Okay, I hear you. How's about the Ravens being top 5 in total wins since their first season? Top 5 in playoff wins. Oh, and how could I forget? 2 Super Bowl trophies chilling at M&T Bank Stadium, waiting for a third. Seriously, guys, get it together. Get that third Lombardi. What are we doing? And for the Wizards' last official trick as GM of the Ravens, the gift he left them was a trade back in the first round for the current face of their franchise.
The MVP frontrunner. If anybody else got to say something different about that, then come see me. I'm right here in Bmore outside the bank. If you got an issue with that, come see me. I'm about that. Big trust. Woo woo. Lamar Jackson in the flesh. Yes, sir. Big trust.
I'm with you.
A true storybook ending to a fairy tale of a career for the Wizard of Oz. A journey that started in the cotton fields of Alabama, to Tuscaloosa, to Cleveland, Ohio, to Baltimore, Maryland, and all of it should end in its rightful place, Canton, Ohio, again.
So and guess what? You're gonna end up going in the Hall of Fame again as a contributor.
So for those keeping score at home, the Wizard is already inducted into 9 different Halls of Fame. all of which can be seen here. And I can say this in all sincerity, he is still vastly underappreciated. There are players that have broken records. There are GMs that have built perennial contenders. There has never been a person that has done both. Ozzie Newsome is if Jerry Rice was also Howie Roseman. Plus, he's the first black GM ever, the first black quarterback and black head coaches in the Hall of Fame in Fritz Pollard, the first black head coach to win a Super Bowler in the Hall of Fame with Tony Dungy. Why would the first black GM be any different? And if your reasoning is because he was too good at actually playing the sport, then we have to reconsider the whole system, because that should sound like a positive to me.